The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the human ship called Valiant. Commander Jack Morrison stood near the main window, watching the empty space ahead. His crew had been out here for 3 weeks now, checking the area and making sure everything was safe. Nothing interesting had happened in all that time. Just quiet space and distant stars. Jack was a tall man with short dark hair and tired eyes. He had been in the military for 20 years. He had seen wars on Earth before all the countries finally decided to work together. Now he was out here in space, representing all of humanity. It felt strange sometimes knowing that he was so far from home. Lieutenant Kate Phillips walked up to him. She was young, maybe 25 years old, with red hair tied back in a neat style. She carried a tablet computer in her hands and her face looked worried. Jack turned to look at her when she cleared her throat. "Commander, we are getting something strange on our scanners. It looks like a distress signal, but it is not from any human ship. The pattern is completely different from anything we have seen before." Jack felt his body tense up. In space, a distress signal usually meant something bad was happening. He followed Kate back to her station where several screens showed different readings and numbers. One screen showed a wave pattern that kept repeating over and over. "Can you play the audio?" Jack asked. Kate pressed some buttons. The computer tried to translate the alien language. It took a few seconds, but then everyone on the bridge could hear it. The voice sounded scared and desperate. Even though the words were strange at first, the fear in them was easy to understand. "This is cargo ship Gentle Wanderer. We are from the Thalaxian Republic. Unknown ships are attacking us. They are killing everyone. They do not stop. Please, we have families here. We have children. Anyone who can hear this, please help us. We are dying." The message ended with static noise. Then it started again from the beginning. The same scared voice saying the same words. Jack looked around at his crew. Everyone had stopped what they were doing. Their faces showed shock and anger. Nobody said anything for a long moment. Daniel Cross was the chief engineer. He was an older man, maybe 50 years old, with gray hair and rough hands from years of work. He checked his instruments and spoke in a quiet voice. "Sir, I am reading weapons fire at the source location. Big energy blasts, explosions, it is a battle out there." "A bad one, how far away are they?" Jack asked. 6 light hours from here. "If we push our engines hard, we can get there in about 4 hours. Jack thought fast. Humans had only been traveling in space with fast ships for 5 years. They had met some alien races during that time. Most of them were friendly, or at least not dangerous. The aliens had been surprised that humans came from such a harsh planet. Earth had strong gravity, dangerous animals, and terrible weather. Most alien worlds were much gentler. They called Earth a death world. Because of this, other aliens thought humans were tough and maybe a little scary. But humans had been welcomed into the galactic community anyway. They had traded with aliens and learned about the galaxy. Everything had been peaceful so far, but now someone was killing innocent aliens, families, children, and they were asking for help. Set a course for those coordinates. Maximum speed. And get me a communication link back to Earth Command. Scott Baker was the communications officer. He started working on connecting to Earth. It would take a few minutes because Earth was so far away. While they waited, the ship began to accelerate. Everyone could feel the slight vibration as the engines worked harder. The crew moved quickly and efficiently. They had trained for situations like this. Weapons were prepared. The shields that protected the ship were turned on. The medical bay got ready in case they found injured people. Everyone knew their job and did it without being told. Lisa Grant was the tactical officer. She was responsible for weapons and defense. She pulled up information on her computer about the aliens who had sent the distress call. "Commander, we do not have much information about the Thalaxian Republic. Our records say they are merchants. They travel around selling minerals and other materials. They are peaceful. Not military at all. What about whoever is attacking them? Unknown. The weapon signatures do not match anything in our database. We have never seen these attackers before." The main screen changed to show Admiral Helen Carter. She was the head of all human military ships in space. She was a serious woman with sharp eyes and short gray hair. She had fought in the wars on Earth before the unification. "Commander Morrison, what is happening?" Jack explained everything quickly. He played the distress call for her. He watched her face change as she listened to the scared alien voice begging for help. When the message finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Commander, you are authorized to investigate and help if you can. You may defend yourself. If they shoot at you, you can shoot back. But do not start a war. Do you understand?" Yes, Admiral. I understand. The Admiral paused. Then she leaned closer to the camera. Jack, if there really are children in danger, you get them out. Do whatever you have to do. Yes, ma'am. The screen went dark. Jack turned back to face his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders. He could see the determination on their faces. They wanted to help those aliens. They wanted to save those children. All crew members, this is Commander Morrison. We are going to answer a distress call. Aliens are under attack. Innocent people are dying. We are going to help them. I need everyone ready. We do not know what we will find out there, but we know people need us. That is what matters. That is what we do. Down in the hangar bay, Captain Ryan Mitchell started getting his soldiers ready for possible boarding actions. In the engineering section, Daniel pushed the engines to work even harder. In the medical bay, Dr. Claire Peterson and her team prepared beds and equipment for wounded people. The Valiant raced through space toward the coordinates. Inside the ship, humans prepared for battle. They did not know what they would find. They did not know if they would be in time to save anyone. But they knew they had to try. When someone called for help, humans answered. That was just who they were. The call went out across all of Earth's military bases. Every ship, every soldier, every pilot. Within 48 hours, the response was massive. People volunteered faster than the military could process them. Young men and women lined up at recruitment centers. They wanted to be part of history. They wanted to help. Captain Nicole Grant received her orders while she was eating breakfast on the space station near Mars. She was 35 years old and had been commanding starships for 8 years. She had led missions through asteroid fields and to the outer planets. She was known for staying calm when things went wrong. The message on her tablet was short. Report to Jupiter Station immediately. You will command the flagship Valiant. Prepare for extended combat operations. Nicole put down her coffee. Her hands were steady, but her mind was racing. Combat operations. She had trained for battle but never experienced it. No human had. This would be the first time humanity fought in space against another species. She packed quickly and took a shuttle to Jupiter. The journey took 2 days. When she arrived, she could not believe what she saw. The orbital space around Jupiter was filled with ships. Military vessels of every size, cruisers, frigates, destroyers, support ships. Medical vessels, transport carriers. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. The Valiant was beautiful. She was 800 feet long with thick armor plating and powerful engines. Weapons covered her hull, missile tubes, laser cannons, and something new called railguns. These could fire solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds, fast enough to punch through almost anything. Nicole walked onto the bridge for the first time. The room was large with screens covering every wall. Crew members sat at their stations checking systems and running tests. They all stood when she entered, at ease, Nicole said. She moved to the captain's chair in the center of the room. Status report, a young man stepped forward. He was Lieutenant Commander Ryan Bell, the tactical officer. All systems are ready, Captain. Weapons are loaded. Shields are at full power. The crew is eager to begin, Nicole nodded. Good. She looked around at her crew. Most of them were young, in their 20s. They had trained hard but never seen real danger. She hoped they were ready. Over the next day, Nicole met with other ship commanders. Captain Paul Griffin commanded the heavy cruiser Liberty. He was 40 years old with a reputation for aggressive tactics. Captain Rachel Stone led the cruiser Defiance. She was quiet but brilliant at strategy. Commander Alex Torres was in charge of 12 frigates. These smaller ships were fast and deadly. Torres was only 30, but had more flight hours than anyone in the fleet. His ships would be crucial for hit-and-run attacks. The Marines were led by Colonel Steve Price. He was a big man with a scarred face and a loud voice. His 3,000 Marines were the best fighters Earth had. They trained constantly in zero-gravity combat. If boarding enemy ships became necessary, they would lead the way. On the second day, Dr. Lisa Chen gave a presentation to all the commanders. She stood in front of a large screen showing images and data. Her voice was clear and confident. You need to understand what makes humans different, she began. Earth is classified as a death world. Do you know what that means? Most planets that support life are gentle places. Low gravity, stable temperatures, few predators. Life evolves slowly in safe conditions. But Earth is different. Earth is dangerous. She showed images of Earth's surface, hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, ice ages. The planet has tried to kill life for billions of years, and life on Earth responded by becoming stronger. Earth's gravity is higher than most life-bearing worlds, Dr. Chen continued. Our atmosphere has lots of oxygen. Oxygen is actually toxic in high amounts. It causes metal to rust and organic materials to decay. We live in a corrosive environment and do not even notice. She pulled up data comparing humans to other species. Humans can run for hours without stopping. Most alien species tire after minutes. Humans can survive extreme temperatures that would kill others. Humans heal from injuries that would be fatal to beings from gentler worlds. Your bodies are weapons, Dr. Chen said. Your bones are dense and strong. Your muscles are powerful. Your immune systems are aggressive. You can eat foods that would poison most aliens. You can survive in conditions that would kill them. The room was silent. Nicole looked at her hands. She had never thought of herself as particularly strong. But compared to aliens from peaceful worlds, humans were monsters. The Krell are also from a death world, Dr. Chen added. But theirs is less extreme than Earth. They are strong and tough. But you are stronger. You are tougher. Use that advantage. After the presentation, Nicole walked through the ship. She stopped to talk with crew members. Engineers were checking the engines. Medical staff were preparing the sickbay. Weapons officers were loading missiles and railgun ammunition. Lieutenant Sophie Martinez ran the engineering department. She was 28 and brilliant with machines. She showed Nicole the railgun systems with obvious pride. These beauties can fire a tungsten rod at 15,000 miles per second, Sophie explained. At that speed, the projectile has more energy than a small nuclear bomb. Nothing can stop it. Nicole was impressed. Will they work against Krell shields? Sophie grinned. Shields are designed to deflect energy weapons, lasers and such, but a solid chunk of metal moving at relativistic speed? That just punches right through. Physics does not care about force fields. On the third day, a small alien ship arrived at Jupiter Station. Everyone stopped what they were doing to watch. This was it. First contact. Real aliens coming to meet humans. The Volari shuttle docked carefully. Armed guards stood ready, but they were not needed. When the airlock opened, a small figure stepped through. The Volari was even smaller than the pictures suggested. Maybe 3.5 feet tall. Its skin rippled with colors, blues and greens and purples flowing like water. Its eyes were huge and dark. It wore simple robes that seemed to be made from plant fibers. Through a translation device, the alien spoke. Its voice was soft and musical. I am called Keeper of Songs. I represent my people. I come with gratitude and hope. Admiral Kane greeted the ambassador formally. Nicole stood nearby, watching carefully. The Volari looked fragile, like it might break if someone touched it too hard. The idea of these gentle beings facing the Krell made her angry. Keeper of Songs provided more information about the attack. The Krell had come without warning. Volari ships tried to defend but were destroyed easily. The Krell weapons were too powerful. Their ships were too strong. Within days, the Volari homeworld was surrounded. Now millions of Volari were trapped on their planet. Food was running low. Medical supplies were gone. People were dying. The Krell wanted complete surrender and slavery. They would take everything the Volari had built over thousands of years. We sent distress signals to every star system we could reach, Keeper of Songs said. Its colors shifted to dark blues and grays, showing sadness. No one answered. We thought we would die alone, unknown, forgotten, but then you heard us. You came. Why? Admiral Kane looked at the small alien. Because it is the right thing to do. Because if we can help and choose not to, we are no better than the Krell. Because humanity believes that all intelligent life has value. Keeper of Songs colors shifted to bright golds and yellows. Hope, gratitude. The translation device struggled to convey the depth of emotion. Can you truly face the Krell? The ambassador asked quietly. They are powerful. They have conquered 3 civilizations. They have hundreds of ships. They enjoy killing. Can you stop them? Nicole stepped forward. We will try our best. We are from a death world. We evolved fighting to survive. The Krell may be strong, but so are we. And we have something they do not. What is that? Keeper of Songs asked. Nicole smiled. A reason to fight. The Krell fight for conquest. We fight for you. For your people. For what is right. That makes us more dangerous than they can imagine. The next day, the fleet prepared to depart. 23 ships. 5,000 crew members, 3,000 Marines, all ready to jump into the unknown. Nicole sat in her captain's chair and gave the order. All ships prepare for faster-than-light jump. Destination Valari system. Let us go answer that distress call. The sun rose over Vareth Prime, and for the first time in 3 days its light fell on a world that wasn't being destroyed. The bombardment had stopped. The fires were slowly being put out. The Varanthi emerged from their shelters like cautious animals, hardly believing they were still alive. Council Leader Threen stood outside the bunker and looked at his wounded world. Beautiful buildings lay in ruins. The crystalline gardens that had taken centuries to grow were shattered. The air smelled of smoke and death. But they had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. Council Leader Vess approached him, her skin colors muted with exhaustion. The humans are requesting permission to send people down to meet with us. They want to talk. Threen felt a flutter of new fear. They knew almost nothing about these humans except that they were terrifyingly good at violence. What if they had just traded one conqueror for another? What if the humans wanted payment for their help? Payment the Varanthi couldn't possibly afford? What choice do we have? Threen asked quietly. They saved us. The least we can do is talk to them. Tell them they may come to the council chambers. Lieutenant Commander Sophie Grant had been looking forward to this moment her whole career. First contact with a new species was always exciting, even under terrible circumstances. She checked her uniform one more time, made sure her translator was working properly, and stepped out of the shuttle onto Varanthi soil. The air was sweet, almost like flowers with more oxygen than Earth normal. Sophie took a deep breath and smiled. Around her, the landscape was both beautiful and heartbreaking. She could see what this world had been before the attack, and what it had become. The Varanthi delegation approached slowly. Sophie had studied everything humanity knew about them during the flight down, which wasn't much. They were tall and slender, with 6 eyes and skin that changed colors based on their emotions. Right now, their skin showed patterns that the computer said meant fear mixed with hope. Sophie walked forward with her best diplomatic smile. Greetings. I'm Lieutenant Commander Sophie Grant of the United Human Systems. On behalf of Captain Morrison and all our people, I want you to know that you're safe now. The Krell won't be coming back. Threen studied the human carefully. She was so strange-looking with only 2 eyes and skin that stayed the same color. Her body looked almost fragile. Yet this fragile-looking creature belonged to a species that had destroyed 40 warships in minutes. You came to our distress call, Threen said, his voice translating into awkward human words. But that call was meant for the old Union. How did you receive it? Sophie's smile turned sheepish. Honestly, we think your beacon's routing system was corrupted. The signal found us by mistake. The Varanthi all changed colors at once, flashing to shocked purple. Vess spoke up, her voice high with disbelief. By mistake? You risked your lives and fought a war by mistake? Well, Sophie said carefully. Once we knew you were in trouble, it stopped being a mistake. Where I come from, you don't ignore a distress call just because it wasn't meant for you. If someone needs help, you help them. The Varanthi exchanged glances, colors rippling in ways Sophie's translator couldn't quite interpret. They seemed confused by something. Threen spoke slowly, choosing his words with care. We must ask this question. What price do you want for your help? The Krell wanted our minerals. What do the humans want? Sophie looked genuinely puzzled. Price? We don't want anything. You were being attacked, so we helped. That's all there is to it. That's not how the galaxy works, Vess said, her voice sharp. No species sends a military fleet without expecting something in return. What do you really want? Sophie was quiet for a moment, realizing she was dealing with a huge cultural difference. Look, maybe we can talk about formal relationships later if you want. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, whatever makes sense for both of us. But the military help? That's not for sale. We helped because people were in trouble. That's what decent people do. Threen felt something shift in his understanding of the universe. Where do you come from, Sophie Grant? What kind of world creates people like you? Sophie pulled out a small device and projected a hologram of Earth into the air between them. The blue and green planet rotated slowly, looking peaceful and beautiful. This is our homeworld, Sophie said. We call it Earth. It's what galactic science classifies as a Class 12 death world. Every Varanthi in the group immediately shifted to the same color of pure horror. A death world? Threen whispered. That's impossible. Death worlds are planets where everything tries to kill you. Nothing civilized can evolve on a death world. How did you survive? Sophie grinned. We're tough. Would you like to see what Earth is really like? Over the next hour, Sophie showed them Earth in all its terrible glory. She showed them oceans so deep they could swallow mountains, with water pressure that would crush most species instantly. She showed them storms that could level entire cities, hurricanes with winds that moved faster than most species could fly. She showed them deserts where the heat would cook you alive in minutes, frozen wastelands where the cold would kill you in seconds, jungles filled with plants that were poisonous and animals that were deadly, earthquakes that could reshape continents, volcanoes that could change the global climate, and then she showed them the predators. Great cats that could hunt in perfect silence, sharks that had survived unchanged for millions of years because they were already perfect killing machines, bears strong enough to break trees, crocodiles that could drag prey 3 times their size underwater. The Varanthi watched in growing horror. And you evolved alongside these creatures? Vess asked, her voice barely a whisper. We didn't just evolve alongside them, Sophie said. We competed with them. We hunted them. We survived them. And eventually we won. Sophie showed them more. Humans running marathons across deserts that would kill most species in minutes. Not because they had to, but for fun. Humans swimming in waters cold enough to freeze blood, calling it recreation. Humans climbing mountains where the air was too thin to breathe properly, just to see the view from the top. Your people do these things for enjoyment? Threen asked, his colors cycling through confusion and awe. You challenge your own world willingly? Sophie nodded. On Earth you learn pretty quickly that the universe doesn't care if you're comfortable. Nature doesn't care if you're scared. So you either get tough or you die. We chose to get tough. That's why you're so good at fighting, Vess said, understanding dawning. You had to be. Your whole evolution was warfare against your own planet. I guess you could say that, Sophie agreed. But Earth didn't just make us strong. It taught us to work together. The humans who couldn't cooperate, who couldn't help each other, they didn't survive. We learned that survival means standing together. Threen looked at Sophie with new understanding. The humans weren't just strong or violent. They were survivors who had been forced to become warriors. They had learned that strength should be used to protect, not because someone taught them, but because it was the only way to survive on their nightmare world. We cannot repay this debt, Threen said quietly. We have nothing that could equal what you've done for us. Sophie's smile was warm and genuine. Then don't think of it as a debt. Think of it as what neighbors do for each other. You know what? I bet Earth made us tough, but it didn't make us wise. Maybe you can teach us something about peace, about building beautiful things instead of destroying them. We could learn a lot from you. For the first time since the Krell had arrived, Threen's colors shifted to something like joy. These strange humans from their nightmare world had come to help. And maybe, just maybe, they had found friends in the darkness of space. Then let us learn from each other, Threen said, and perhaps together we can make the galaxy a better place. Sophie extended her hand, a human gesture of friendship. Threen carefully reached out and touched it with his own longer, more delicate fingers. 2 species from completely different worlds making contact for the first time. Above them, the human fleet continued its patrol, standing guard over a world they had saved. Standing guard because someone had called for help, even if by mistake, standing guard because that's what humans did. 3 days after the battle, the world was still trying to process what had happened. Every news channel showed the same footage. Human warships fighting alien invaders. Victory against impossible odds. Earth had survived, but nothing would ever be the same. President Janet Cooper stood in the United Nations building, addressing representatives from every nation on Earth. She looked tired. The past 72 hours had been the most stressful of her life. But her voice was steady as she spoke about humanity's future among the stars. The Corvani would return to their empire and tell everyone what happened. Other alien civilizations would hear about Earth. Some would see humans as potential allies. Others would see them as threats. Earth needed to be ready for both possibilities. Admiral Walsh sat beside her, waiting to answer military questions. He'd been promoted again, given command of all Earth defense forces. His first recommendation was simple. Build more ships. 50 at least, maybe 100. The Corvani had been one threat. There would be others, but ships took time to build. Years of construction, testing, training, and they were expensive. Every nation would have to contribute. Money, resources, people. The entire planet would need to work together in ways they never had before. Jake Morrison was offered a promotion too. They wanted to make him an admiral, put him in charge of the new fleet construction. He turned it down. He was a ship captain, not a desk officer. He belonged on a bridge, not in a conference room. They let him keep the Defiant and gave him the mission he wanted. Patrol duty, watching for threats, protecting Earth. Amy Carter did accept her promotion. Lieutenant commander now with her own ship, a smaller vessel than the Defiant, designed for scouting and reconnaissance. Her job was to explore nearby star systems, look for potential colonies, and watch for danger. She was excited and terrified in equal measure. On the other side of the galaxy, the surviving Corvani ships arrived at their home system. Vectar's report was transmitted immediately to the Empire's ruling council. They read it in silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. 230 ships destroyed by 9 human vessels, impossible. But the evidence was clear: sensor logs, video recordings, testimony from hundreds of survivors. The humans had weapons unlike anything the Empire had encountered. Kinetic weapons that ignored shields, point defense systems that could destroy entire fighter wings. And most terrifying of all, they had the tactical knowledge to use those weapons perfectly. The council debated for 3 days. Some wanted revenge. Others wanted to study human technology, learn from it. A few wise members suggested leaving Earth alone entirely. Humanity had proven itself dangerous. Why provoke them further? But empires don't stay empires by backing down. The council made a decision. No direct attacks on Earth, not yet. But they would watch, study, learn everything they could about human strengths and weaknesses. And when they were ready, when they understood how humans fought, then they would strike again. Vectar heard the decision and knew it was a mistake. The council didn't understand. They thought this was about technology, about weapons and tactics. But it wasn't. It was about psychology, about a species that had spent 10,000 years fighting itself and learning from every conflict. The Corvani had conquered 47 worlds. But those were peaceful species, civilizations that had given up warfare before reaching the stars. They'd been easy targets. Humanity was different. Humans had reached the stars while still fighting each other. They'd brought their violence with them. Vectar requested permission to retire from military service. He'd lost too many soldiers, seen too many ships destroyed. He didn't want to be part of whatever came next. The council granted his request, happy to be rid of a commander who spoke too much about human strength. Back on Earth, Captain Helen Price was preparing for humanity's first diplomatic mission. She was a linguist, trained in communication and negotiation. Her job was to make first contact with other alien species, not the Corvani. They'd already made their position clear, but there were others out there. Peaceful civilizations that might welcome human friendship. Helen studied everything humans knew about alien cultures. The information was limited. Most of it came from intercepted Corvani communications, but it was enough to start building profiles. Understanding how different species thought, what they valued, how to approach them without causing fear or offense. Her ship would be the USS Guardian, not a warship like the Defiant, a diplomatic vessel, designed for long voyages and comfortable accommodations, but it still carried weapons. Every human ship did now. They'd learned that lesson the hard way. Hope for peace but prepare for war. Captain Dan Rogers would command the Guardian's escort. 3 smaller warships would accompany Helen on her missions. Their job was simple: protect the diplomats, show that humans could be peaceful, but also show that humans could defend themselves if necessary. Dan had been in the military for 20 years. He'd served on submarines, then spacecraft, working his way up through the ranks. He understood the balance Helen needed. Be friendly but not weak, show strength but not aggression. It was a delicate line to walk. The first diplomatic mission would launch in 6 months. That gave Helen time to prepare, to study, to practice her approach. Dan used that time to train his crews. They would be representing humanity to the galaxy. Everything they did would shape how aliens viewed Earth. Meanwhile, across the solar system, construction continued. New shipyards orbited Mars and the Moon. Asteroid mining operations expanded to provide raw materials. Factories ran 24 hours a day, building components for the new fleet. Humanity was mobilizing for a future among the stars. Lieutenant Sarah Blake worked at one of the new medical facilities on Mars. Her job was treating injured personnel from the battle. Most wounds were minor: radiation exposure, broken bones from hard maneuvers, psychological stress. But some were serious. People who'd been exposed to vacuum when their sections were damaged, burns from energy weapons that got through the armor. She also treated Corvani survivors. 3 ships had been captured intact when their crews surrendered. The aliens were held as prisoners of war, given medical care and decent accommodations. Studying them helped humanity understand alien biology, how they thought, how they communicated, what they needed to survive. The Corvani prisoners were confused by their treatment. In their empire, prisoners were slaves or test subjects, but humans gave them food, shelter, medical care, even respect. It didn't match what they'd been taught about primitive species. Maybe their empire had been wrong about more than just human military capability. One prisoner, a junior officer named Krell, started talking to Sarah, learning English, sharing information about the empire, not because he was being forced, but because he wanted to understand. How had humans become so strong? How did they balance violence and mercy? Sarah tried to explain. Humans fought each other for thousands of years. They learned war's cost, the pain it caused, but they also learned war's necessity. Sometimes you had to fight to survive. The trick was knowing when to fight and when to show mercy, when to be the warrior and when to be the healer. Krell listened and wondered if the Corvani Empire could learn the same lessons. But he doubted it. The Empire was too old, too set in its ways. They saw conquest as natural, inevitable. They wouldn't change until something forced them to change. Maybe humanity would be that force. Maybe Earth's victory was the beginning of something bigger, a shift in galactic power. The old empires would have to adapt or fall, and the new species, the ones just reaching the stars, would have a choice: follow humanity's example or follow the old ways. Time would tell which path the galaxy chose. The human fleet appeared in Krillian space in perfect formation. 20 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel all at once. The Thunder led the formation, with the Valiant taking position on the right flank. Destroyers, cruisers, and support vessels spread out in a pattern that showed discipline and training. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then Victoria Stone's voice echoed across the fleet communication channels. "All ships, this is Commander Stone. Operation begins now. Remember your rules of engagement. We are here to stop criminals, not to become them ourselves. Military targets only. Except surrenders. Any commander who violates these rules will answer to me personally. Understood?" 20 voices responded with acknowledgements. The fleet split into 3 groups. Each group had a different target. Jack Morrison and the Valiant led 5 ships toward a major Krillian base hidden in an asteroid field. The Thunder and its escorts headed for the largest Krillian shipyard. The 3rd group moved to intercept a large pirate convoy carrying stolen goods and prisoners. Jack watched his screens as his task force approached the asteroid field. Sensors showed multiple Krillian ships docked at a station carved into one of the larger asteroids. Intelligence said this was where the raiders brought their captured goods and prisoners before selling them. "Commander, they are launching ships. 8 raiders coming out to meet us, forming a defensive line." Jack opened a communication channel. His voice was calm but hard. "Attention all Krillian vessels. This is the Earth Defense Force. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. If you resist, you will be destroyed. This is your only warning." The Krillians, confident in their numbers, opened fire. Their plasma weapons lit up space with bright flashes, but the human shields absorbed the shots easily. Then the human ships returned fire. It was not a fair fight. The Krillian ships were designed for raiding merchants, not fighting military vessels. Within 3 minutes, 3 Krillian ships were floating dead in space. 2 more had exploded completely. The last 3 were frantically broadcasting their surrender on every frequency they had. Jack ordered boarding teams to secure the asteroid base. Captain Ryan Mitchell led his soldiers through the corridors. What they found made them angry all over again. Holding cells filled with prisoners from many different species. People who had been taken from attacked ships weeks or even months ago. They were being held until they could be sold as slaves. Ryan's voice came over the communication system. "Commander, we have over 100 prisoners here. Some have been here for a very long time. Medical condition varies, but they are all alive. Free them all. Get medical teams down there immediately." And Ryan, document everything. Pictures, videos, testimony. I want the whole galaxy to see what the Krillians have been doing. At the Krillian shipyard, Victoria Stone was leading her own assault. The shipyard was a massive structure where the Krillians built and repaired their vessels. It was protected by 10 warships, the largest concentration of Krillian military power in the sector. The Krillians saw the human fleet approaching and prepared for battle. They arranged their ships in a defensive formation around the shipyard. They had weapons platforms on the station itself. They thought they could hold off the humans. They were wrong. The Thunder opened fire with its main weapons. Massive railgun slugs tore through space at incredible speeds. The first Krillian warship's shields collapsed immediately. The second shot punched clean through the hull. The ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. The other Krillian ships tried to fight back, but they were completely outmatched. Human missiles dodged and weaved around defensive fire. Human energy weapons cut through Krillian shields like they were paper. Within 15 minutes, 5 Krillian warships were destroyed, and the other 5 had surrendered. Victoria ordered teams to board the shipyard. They needed to secure it and gather evidence. They also needed to free any prisoners being held there. Her soldiers moved through the station efficiently, meeting little resistance. Most of the Krillians surrendered as soon as they saw armed humans coming. The 3rd Human Task Force, led by Captain Andrew Sullivan, intercepted the Krillian convoy in open space. The convoy consisted of 20 cargo ships protected by 6 raiders. The cargo ships were carrying stolen goods from dozens of attacked merchants. They also had prisoners being transported to slave markets. Andrew gave the Krillians the same warning the other task forces had given: surrender or be destroyed. The raider escorts tried to fight. They were disabled in less than 2 minutes. The cargo ships, seeing how quickly their guards were defeated, surrendered immediately. When human soldiers boarded the cargo ships, they found more than just stolen goods. They found families huddled in dark holds, children separated from their parents, elderly aliens who had been merchants before being captured. All of them were being taken to be sold. Andrew stood in one of the cargo holds looking at the freed prisoners. They stared back at him with confused hope. Most of them had never seen a human before. They did not know what to expect. "You are safe now. We are taking you home. All of you." Across the sector, the story was the same. Human task forces struck at Krillian bases and fleets with overwhelming force. Pirates who had terrorized this region for generations were defeated in minutes. Bases that had operated for decades were captured in hours. And everywhere the humans went, they freed prisoners and documented crimes. The operation lasted 72 hours. When it was over, the Krillian raiding network was destroyed. 40 of their military vessels had been captured or destroyed. 15 bases had been seized, and over 300 prisoners from 20 different species had been freed. The galactic community watched in stunned silence. For decades, the Krillians had operated freely. Some species had complained, but nobody had done anything about it. It was too much trouble, too dangerous, too far away from their own space to matter. Then humans had arrived. The newcomers, the species that had only been in space for 5 years, and in just 3 days they had accomplished what nobody else had even tried to do. On the Thunder's bridge, Victoria received a communication from Admiral Carter back on Earth. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen, and she was smiling. "A rare sight. Commander Stone, excellent work. Minimal casualties on our side. Maximum effect on the enemy. You have my congratulations and the thanks of Earth." "Thank you, Admiral. But the credit belongs to every person in this fleet." They all did their part, agreed. Now comes the hard part. The galactic community wants to talk. The Solarian Confederation has called an emergency council meeting. They want humanity to explain its actions. Victoria smiled coldly. "I hope they are ready to hear some uncomfortable truths." Jack Morrison stood on the Valiant's bridge looking out at the captured Krillian base. Human flags now flew alongside the flags of the freed prisoners. Medical ships were arriving to take the rescued aliens home. Engineers were cataloging all the evidence of Krillian crimes. Kate Phillips walked up beside him. "Commander, we just received a message from the Thalaxian Republic. They want to hold a memorial ceremony for those who died. They are asking if you would attend." Jack nodded slowly. "Tell them yes. And Kate, make sure our entire crew can go. They deserve to see what we fought for." The operation was over. The Krillians were defeated. But Jack knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was watching humanity now, watching to see what they would do next. Watching to see if these Deathworlders were friends or enemies. Jack intended to show them that humans could be the best friends anyone could ask for, or the worst enemies anyone could imagine. The choice was up to them. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. It had to be, to fit representatives from hundreds of different species. The room was shaped like a giant sphere, with seats arranged in rising circles around a central platform. Delegates from every corner of known space sat in those seats watching as Ambassador Kevin Barnes walked to the center. Kevin was a calm man in his 50s with gray hair and steady eyes. He had been a diplomat on Earth before being chosen to represent humanity in galactic affairs. Now he stood before hundreds of alien species, knowing that what he said here would shape humanity's future in space. The room fell silent as he activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above him. The massacre site, dead Thalaxians floating in space, children who had been murdered, freed prisoners from the Krillian bases, evidence of decades of crimes. Members of the Council, I stand before you today not to apologize for humanity's actions but to explain them. When we first joined this galactic community, we were told that space was vast and dangerous, that there were threats we could not imagine. What we were not told was that some of those threats were allowed to exist, because it was easier to ignore them than to stop them. The images changed, showing more freed prisoners. Aliens from dozens of species, all rescued from Krillian captivity. The Krillians have operated in your space for generations. They have murdered thousands, enslaved thousands more, and the galactic community did nothing. Well, humanity will not do nothing. We cannot. It is not who we are. A delegate from the Valorian Assembly stood up. The Valorians were a peaceful species that valued harmony above all else. Ambassador Barnes, while your intentions may have been good, your actions set a dangerous example. You attacked vessels from another species without formal galactic approval. You used military force. How do we know you will not turn this aggression toward other species? Kevin looked directly at the Valorian delegate. Because we did not attack random vessels. We targeted criminals who prey on innocent civilians. We have documented evidence of their crimes. We have over 300 freed prisoners who can testify about what was done to them. If you are a peaceful species engaged in honest trade, you have nothing to fear from humanity. But if you attack civilians, if you enslave people, if you commit murder and think space is too big for anyone to care, then yes, you should be worried about us. The chamber erupted into argument. Some delegates supported what humans had done. They were grateful that someone had finally addressed a problem everyone knew existed. Others were concerned. They worried that humanity was too aggressive, too willing to use force, too dangerous to be trusted. An ancient delegate from the Zilarian Confederation raised a hand for silence. The Zilarians had been in space longer than most other species. They were wise and cautious. When the old alien spoke, everyone listened. Ambassador Barnes raises an important point. The Krillian problem has existed for a very long time. Many species have complained about their raids, but we, the established members of this council, did nothing effective to stop them. Perhaps we should ask ourselves why we needed newcomers to do what we should have done decades ago. That statement caused even more debate. Kevin stood quietly in the center, letting them argue. He knew that some minds would never be changed, but he also knew that actions spoke louder than words. Humanity had freed prisoners, stopped murderers, and made space safer. The results spoke for themselves. While the Galactic Council argued, Jack Morrison was millions of miles away on the Thalaxian homeworld. He stood in a vast memorial hall filled with soft, glowing light. Thousands of Thalaxians had gathered to remember those who had died in the massacre. Varix, the communications officer who had sent the distress signal, stood at a podium. His voice was sad but strong as he spoke about each person who had been lost. He told their names, their stories, what they had dreamed of doing with their lives. It took hours, but he honored every single one. When Varix finished, he called Jack forward. The human commander walked to the podium, looking out at thousands of glowing alien faces. All of them were watching him with gratitude in their eyes. I wish we could have saved them all. I wish we had arrived sooner. Those thoughts will stay with me forever, but I can promise you this. What happened to your people will not happen again. Not in this sector. Not while humans are here to prevent it. He paused, choosing his words carefully. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. A planet with dangerous weather, deadly animals, and harsh conditions. We survived because we learned to protect each other, to stand together against threats. Now that we are part of this galactic community, we will extend that protection to everyone who needs it. Some species will say we are too violent, too aggressive, too dangerous to trust. Maybe they are right. But when someone calls for help, when children are in danger, when innocent people are being killed, we will not hesitate. We will not debate. We will not look away. We will respond with everything we have. That is who we are. That is what it means to be human. The hall filled with a sound Jack had never heard before. The Thalaxians were singing. Their voices created a haunting melody that spoke of loss and hope and gratitude all at once. Their bioluminescent skin pulsed in rhythm with the song, creating waves of colored light that washed over everyone present. Back on the Valiant, Jack found his crew gathered in the observation deck. They were looking out at the Thalaxian homeworld below. The planet glowed softly in the darkness, a beautiful sight that now held both sad and hopeful memories. Daniel Cross walked up beside Jack. The old engineer looked thoughtful. "Commander, do you think we did the right thing? Some people back on Earth are saying we should have let the galactic authorities handle it." Jack looked out at the planet, thinking of all the lives they had saved, all the prisoners they had freed, all the families that had been reunited. "I know we did the right thing, and I know we will do it again whenever we are needed." Kate Phillips joined them at the window. She had been quiet since the memorial service. "Commander, I have been reading reports from across the sector. Other species are coming forward now, reporting crimes they suffered in silence because they thought nobody would help them, pirates and slavers in other regions. Now they think someone will actually do something about it." Jack nodded slowly. "That is both good and concerning. We cannot be everywhere at once. Maybe we do not have to be." Kate pulled up a message on her tablet. "The Thalaxian Republic has announced they are building a defense fleet. They asked if we would help train them. 3 other species have made similar requests. They want to learn how to protect themselves." That brought a slight smile to Jack's face. "That is even better than us doing it ourselves, teaching others to stand up for themselves." 6 months later, the sector had changed dramatically. The Krillians who survived were scattered and powerless. Their captured leaders were facing trial for their crimes at a special galactic tribunal. The evidence against them was overwhelming, collected and documented by human forces. More importantly, other species were becoming more active in defending themselves. The Thalaxians had their new fleet. Other merchant species were traveling together in protected convoys. Pirates and raiders who had operated freely for years were now facing organized resistance. The Valiant remained on patrol in the sector, now part of a permanent peacekeeping force. They were joined by ships from other species who wanted to help maintain the new order. It was not a perfect solution, but it was better than what had existed before. Jack stood on his bridge one evening, watching a merchant convoy pass safely through space that had once been deadly dangerous. Kate approached him with news from Earth. "Commander, Admiral Carter is promoting you. You are being given command of the entire peacekeeping fleet in this sector." Jack smiled slightly. "More responsibility. Just what I always wanted," Kate smiled back. "You earned it. We all did." The galaxy had called humanity Deathworlders, barbarians from a brutal planet, dangerous and violent. But in their finest hour, humanity had shown that strength forged in hardship could be used for good. That warriors could also be protectors. That power could serve justice instead of tyranny. The message spread across the galaxy. Humans had arrived, and they brought with them something many species had forgotten existed. They brought hope. They brought the promise that evil would be opposed, that the innocent would be protected, and that no cry for help would go unanswered. And in the darkness of space, on countless worlds, that message was heard and understood. The age of unopposed tyranny was over. A new era had begun.